Brownfield's Megan Grubner. With us is Brent Gatton. Today we're going to talk about the United Soybean Board's See for Yourself tour. What is it?
The See for Yourself program is a mission opportunity for individuals that have not ever been experienced to what the Checkoff does on their behalf. You know, all farmers pay into the Checkoff, and there's so much misconception of what we do on their behalf, of how we invest these dollars in research, education, and promotion. So what we did, the Audit and Evaluation Committee, this program lives on the evaluation side of that committee, and the committee seen fit to bring this program back as of last year. So last year we started the program. We went to Southeast Asia, where we got to meet with our partners in WISH, USEC, USMEF, USAPEC, and things like that. And it was such a great opportunity because these individuals got to see firsthand of how their Checkoff dollars are being utilized to promote education, research, and technology. You know, so to me, it was a great experience for these individuals to get off the farm, to get to actually meet the individuals that are working on their behalf that they had no idea about. And also it's a good recruitment tool for smaller states that don't have the resources that some other states have to let individuals do domestic or international type travel, to be able to understand what their dollars are doing for them back on their operation.
So this program has been around for a few years. It took a little bit of a break.
Yes.
Why was it so important for you and your committee to bring this back?
The one thing we talked about, you know, we look at all these programs that we're funding and all the research, you know, it's such a great cause, and we're all doing it for the greater good. But, you know, whenever we get to looking at that development, or those young leaders that we're looking for to replace us some point in time, we look at this as a generational program. And the reason that we really wanted to bring it back is because we're investing in people. We're investing in future young leaders to inspire them to want to be a part of the programs and to help move the pile and continue the Checkoff for years to come. So to me, there's no greater expense, or I don't know what the right wording is, but no better investment than investing in these young leaders to be a part of this program. And that's what the committee seen fit to bring it back last year.
So let's walk through a program for those who may not have had the privilege to experience it. You start with, what do you start with?
Well, we'll have a few Zoom meetings, so we'll kind of do a briefing with the individuals. It's kind of like a meet and greet through Zoom is how we've done it the last couple of years that the program's been back. And so we're going to touch on a little bit of whatever association does. We'll talk a little bit about some of the programs that we're going to visit through USAPEC, USMEF, what USEC, what all these acronyms that we use in the soy world, what they all mean. And also we'll touch a little bit about how the Checkoff cannot do anything. Like, there's two different boards. There's an American Soybean Association, there's a United Soybean Association, and how those two are not the same. You know, we may all be working for a common goal, but you cannot invest Checkoff dollars or spend any dollars on lobbying type activities. And so we try to teach them what the differences are in the soy world about how all these organizations work. And so we try to do those informational backgrounds before we get going, and then when we get there, it's kind of boots on the ground, and Carrie Claghorn from Iowa has done an outstanding job of coordinating these programs for us for the last 2 years. So last year we went to, we started out in Cambodia, which is a new undeveloped market, and that's where WISH comes in there, and they're trying to educate the individuals on how to use soybean meal, mainly in the Raceway Pond system. There's a lot of aquaculture there. Then we traveled from there to Vietnam, and in Vietnam that was more of an established market, and so that's when USEC come in there. And that's where USEC takes those emerging markets, or those markets that could to really amount to something. USEC takes it from there with the ground running and tries to educate them and tries to get our product into those markets. So, and then we went to Singapore was the last stop, and Singapore was the most mature market, and you could see the differences in the economies between all three countries. And so really you had to see that to see the whole life cycle of the Checkoff, of how it starts from a beginning market to a mature market. And so this year we actually went to Panama and Colombia, and the reason being is last year we were traveled in August, and we had about 6 or 7 participants. And what a lot of people don't realize is that this covers all the way as far as the East Coast of Maryland. We had individuals as far west as Kansas, and as far north as Dakotas, and far south as Mississippi this year. And so what is neat is that we had 12 farmers to represent, because we moved that time frame to February. So we just got back from Colombia about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So, and the reason in doing that is because it opened it up more for the southern farmers, because last year being in August, there's a lot of individuals that are starting corn harvest and things like that. So the committee seen fit, so hey, let's push this time frame up a little bit, and let's, it's a quicker turnaround. So I'm excited to announce that the committee has funded and approved the funding for FY25. So there'll be more to come on that here shortly.
When you talk about this program and this ability to see these different groups and how these strategic partnerships work for the ultimate goal of growing demand. How important is it to see what the United States Soybean Export Council does, or the United States Meat Export Federation does in those partnerships and those strategic market development avenues?
You know, what's really interesting is I'll never forget, we toured a soy food and soy milk facility. And you're talking about, what does it mean on our behalf? And it was amazing how they do this U.S. branding. They had on the bottom of their little bottles that said U.S. Sustainable Soy. And they started it out really small. And as they kept getting it bigger and bigger and bigger, because the customers, they were looking for that stamp of approval that it come from the United States and it was sustainable soy. So what I think is interesting is that that all these individuals are working on our behalf to get us into those markets. And when you actually take missions over there, those buyers truly want to meet a farmer. They want to actually put a face with the product. They want to have that connection, and they want to feel comfortable at where their food is grown and where it's coming from. So to me, it's hard to replace that type of an experience.
When you look at those relationships and that networking, what role do farmers play on these stops or these trade missions or these see for yourself tours and growing demand as well?
Yes. Well, like I say, they truly want to meet an American farmer. They really want to hear our sustainable story of how we're producing. The United States is losing land every day. We're producing more with less than what we ever have. We're using less inputs. We've got less land, but our yields continue to grow because of the genetics and things like that. And I commend, that's part of your Checkoff dollars, because of the research and the technology that we funded. Has been a positive return. I think for every dollar that you spend on the Checkoff, you get $12.34 back in return. This year in 24, the Audit and Evaluation Committee is actually going to do every 5 years, we do a new return on investment study. So look for those numbers possibly later on this fall. So, but we're super excited to tell that story.
Your tour just came back from Panama and Colombia. As you talk and had a chance to experience, I'm assuming you got to go through the canal and experience that. How also important is that for your farmers to see that transportation story?
Well, it was really neat. We got to see both sides of the canal. And what was really interesting about going to the canal, we've all heard about the canal. Very few of us that was in this program. We had about 5 or 6 USB directors, and we had 12 participants that were part of this program. And it was amazing to us to see those ships go through there, and the infrastructure and the foresight that our ancestors had years ago to be able to think about that to help with the trade routes. But what was really interesting is how that affects commodities, because there's a severe drought going on in Panama while we were there, and I think they've limited to like 22 to 24 ships is all that's going through the canal right now. So technically no commodities are going through the Panama Canal because it's too expensive for shipping. But what makes it interesting to us is how they tied that story back of when we went to Colombia, because we have a free trade agreement with Colombia, is that we were still able to get shipments directly to, I guess you would say it'd be the north east side of the canal. But since we, just like the investment we made in the Port of Grays Harbor, we've invested in infrastructure studies and things like that to see the benefits of having those expansions of those ports on the far west coast. And they informed us that they're actually getting soybeans shipped from the west coast because they can't go through the Panama Canal. And so to me, I think that's just an amazing story to see that how we kind of had a part and hopefully keeping that supply chain open.
So you mentioned the funding has been approved for FY25. If farmers want to participate in the See for Yourself program, how do they find out more information? How do they go about learning?
Please, I tell you, go to the United Soybean Board website. I think it's unitedsoy.org, and reach out to your QSSBs. That's your state qualified soybean associations. And this program is going to be run through the states. The states are actually going to help with the application process to submit that. The Audit and Evaluation Committee will, at the end, actually pick the candidates. But we're wanting the states to be more involved so the states can actually identify those future leaders that are wanting to have more knowledge, or whether they want to serve local level, state level, or maybe the national level someday. So we're really wanting to get the states involved more like we did the last 2 years. So.
How important is it for not just members who have been or farmers who have been involved in the industry for years, but those young members to cut their teeth in leadership and to be able to communicate the mission of the United Soybean Board back to other growers?
Well, I tell you what I thought was really interesting. We were very honored when we were in Colombia to meet the president of Colombia. I think he was his name has slipped me right now, but he was one of the first presidents to serve 2 terms, and he was one of the first individuals that was kind of, I guess you would say, cracking down on the drug trade. And he was one of the ones that originally helped us, that worked with a free trade agreement. And it was interesting because his family had to move to Mexico because of the dangers and things like that, because of what he was trying to do for his country. And we had an individual ask him, said, well, why did you do it? And he talked about, for the love of his country. He said, for a love of something that was greater than myself. He said, I felt like I needed to serve my country. And that, to me, that tied back leadership to farmers. We're all in it for the greater good. We're all doing it because we love agriculture, and we feel like what we're doing, we're truly doing something that is making a difference. And to me, being able to tie that leadership component back into those young individuals and us older directors, I'm on my 6th year on USB. To me, that was such an inspiring moment to hear an individual talk about his love of country like that. And so I feel like we all have a love for agriculture the same way as he was talking about his country. So
Thank you so much for your time today.
all right, thank you.
I'm Megan Grebner with Managing for Profit, a content partnership with the United Soybean Board on Brownfield.